second attempt. It's almost 6:30. I apologize if you were on early. I'm apologizing for technology. It's not really my fault, but I am getting my Wi-Fi upgraded on Tuesday. So hopefully that problem won't happen again, ever, but you never know. So welcome back. We'll wait a couple minutes for people to show up. Rather than pick up where I left off, which is a little bit of a blur, I'm just gonna start anew. I mean, not a new program, but just a new approach. So thank you for coming back. If you're coming back, thank you for being here. I'm gonna play just a little bit of music to get started, give people a chance to show up. You can invite people if you want. I hope you had a good day. Wherever you are, it's sun setting here. And yeah, as I said, the Wi-Fi will be upgraded on Tuesday. So next Sunday will be better. And if I lose you tonight, what I'll do, hopefully that's not going to happen. If I lose you tonight, what I'll do is I'll record the rest of the service. But fingers crossed and pray that I don't lose you. Because that's always a terrible thing. I just noticed earlier, I was in the middle of a sentence and I started to notice all these people had left, and I thought, was it something I said? And then someone said it was buffering, and so we did have a bit of a problem there. I'm going to play just to start, just to get us kind of warmed up. This is called Give Thanks. During these times of great tumult, you know, we are really, I don't know what you just said. During these times of tumult, it's, one thing that's happening is we are coming to a sort of an awareness of how much we take for granted in the face of people in Europe and Ukraine losing everything and not having a home to go back to. So may we be cognizant of all that we have. May we lift the energy. Oh, hi, it's the UK is here. Welcome. So, interestingly enough, more people in their consciousnesses, if they're somewhat awake, are becoming very grateful for, you know, but for the grace of God, all this, you know, bounty and abundance that they have, and we're moved to share it with others too. So it's definitely a time to be in gratitude for what we do have and to share what we have for those who are really suffering. And we'll be doing our prayer time momentarily. This is called Give Thanks. I don't know if it's in my key. Let's see. Helps if you turn it on, innit? All right. Welcome to Church of Spirituality. Church of Spirituality, as some of you know, was founded in 2020, December 6, 2020, by myself. Not affiliated with any other church or organization. Simply birthed this church to answer the call of so many people for whom even the word church is a trigger. So we're redefining the word church to mean coming together in fellowship, acknowledging our spirituality, our spiritual beings, and that we're spiritual beings in human form, and that we're all connected with each other. Some of you are here because obviously you know that I have the Psychic News Network. Just a word about that. For the past 3 weeks since the war started in Ukraine, I've received really strong guidance to sort of, kind of lay low on that front. I will be back as soon as it feels appropriate, as soon as I get the word from Spirit to give you further insights on what's going on with current events according to my impressions. They used to call it prophecy in the old days. Anyway, so welcome. I want to start with a prayer for world peace by Ernest Holmes. I draw a lot from Ernest Holmes, who wrote The Science of Mind back in around the 1930s, and it's a metaphysical approach to Christianity. And this is a prayer for world peace by Ernest Holmes, which I've been reading the past few weeks from quotes on peace. So a spiritual mind treatment is an affirmative prayer. It is a prayer. So just so you know, it's hard for me to read the chat and talk at the same time, so don't be offended. I'm not ignoring you. I just can't read it. It's too quick. So a spiritual mind treatment is a form of affirmative prayer in which we affirm that which we are praying about as if it's already so. So here it goes. A prayer for world peace by Ernest Holmes. We know there is but one mind, which is the mind of God, in which all people live and move and have their being. We know there is a divine pattern for humanity, and within this pattern there is infinite harmony and peace, cooperation, unity, and mutual helpfulness. We know that the mind of each person, being one with the mind of God, shall discover the method, the way, and the means best fitted to permit the flow of divine love between individuals and nations. We know there shall be a free interchange of ideas, of cultures, of spiritual concepts, of ethics, of educational systems, and scientific discoveries, for all good belongs to all alike. We know that because the divine mind has created us all, we are bound together in one infinite and perfect unity. In bringing about world peace, we know that all people and all nations will remain individual, but unified for the common purpose of promoting peace, happiness, harmony, and prosperity. We know that deep within every person, the divine pattern of perfect peace is already implanted. We now declare that in each person and in leaders of thought everywhere, this divine pattern moves into action and form to the end that all nations and all people shall live together in peace, in harmony, and prosperity forever. So it is now. So that's Ernest Holmes from his quotes on peace. The theme for the month of March has been abundance. Today's sermon, I'm going to give it another shot, is abundance of divine guidance. And we will go into our healing chants right after we read our mission statement. Our healing chants are just simple little chants that I've written to help us through the week and, through our lives. And they're really easy to sing and to remember. I could probably do that one. So let's start with the healing chants, and then we'll read our mission statement. If anybody would like to receive the program, I am compiling a list of people for an automated email that would happen on Sunday mornings of the church program. So send an email to AnnetteDion7@gmail.com. Just say, I'd like to receive the church program. And I'm getting that together, so. Hopefully by next week you'll get it. The first one is all is well. All is well, all is well, all is well. It's the first day of spring, everyone. All is well. All is well, all is well, all is well. One more time. All is well, all is well, all is well. All is well. No matter what, there's a space where all is well. The next one is I forgive everyone. We like to remember that forgiveness has nothing to do with condoning horrible behavior. It has everything to do with lifting our energy up and being available for the higher vibrational frequencies of love. And it goes, I forgive everyone, I forgive everyone, I forgive everyone, I forgive everyone, forgive everyone, and with God's help I forgive everyone, especially myself. And then we'll sing we forgive everyone, we forgive everyone, we forgive everyone, we forgive everyone, forgive everyone. With God's help, we forgive everyone, especially ourselves. One more time. We forgive everyone, we forgive everyone, we forgive everyone, forgive everyone, we forgive everyone. And with God's help, we forgive everyone, especially ourselves. Sometimes that's useful when you get really mad at somebody, like in traffic or something. You just sing that. The third one is I move at God's pace and I receive God's guidance. God provides abundantly. I have no fear at all. And then we're going to sing we. And that one goes like this. I move at God's pace and I receive God's guidance. God provides abundantly. I have no fear at all. Then we'll say we move at God's pace. We receive God's guidance. God provides abundantly. We have no fear at all. One more time. We move at God's pace and we receive God's guidance. God provides abundantly. We have no fear at all. So what's happened is after, since we started in 2020, me and the guides, or me and God, I guess, and I've had those chants going through my head for a very long time. I think it's changed the quality of my life. I think out walking, having those chants in your head, they're great affirmations. So I highly recommend them. They work. So first day of spring here in the Northern Hemisphere. I don't know if there's anybody here from Australia, but I guess that would be the first day of fall, maybe. Our next thing that we do is read our mission statement, and I'll read it to you. We believe we are all connected to divine intelligence, continually moving through all of life and through all living things. We remember to always align ourselves with this divine presence to create healing miracles in our own lives, positively affecting the lives of all those we come into contact with, seen and unseen. We believe that the kingdom of heaven resides within each and every one of us, and that love is all there is. We know and acknowledge that we are all one. We are now going to say a prayer that's kind of a meditative prayer, so we'll be closing our eyes. If there are any prayer requests, just please know this is a bit of a community. It's a small community, but it's a great community, always expanding. And if you want to put your prayer requests up, go ahead and put them in the chat, and others can also pray for you. So feel free to do that. Before we go into the prayer, I just want to say if anything technical happens, I will jump off and I'll record the rest of the church service. As I said earlier, on Tuesday, I'm getting an upgrade to my Wi-Fi here, so we won't run into that problem anymore, fingers crossed. If there is a problem with the connectivity, please do this for me. Put an angry face emoji up. So that will help me to know what's going on, and just in case I lose the connection. And with eyes closed and in prayer, it'll be hard for me to see, but hopefully we're all good. Psalm 46, verse 10 says, "Be still and know that I am God." I'm going to play a little bit of a chant, and you can feel free to close your eyes. Make sure that you're not going to be disturbed for the next few minutes. And children can pray with you, pets can pray with you. You can close your eyes and take a deep breath. We are one in spirit, we co-create with God. We lift our prayers up to the light, expanding love in thoughts. We are one in spirit, we co-create with God. We lift our prayers up to the light, expanding love in thoughts. Settling in with your eyes closed as we go into prayer. Bring all your focus to the sensation of the breath moving in and out as we pray. Dear God, we thank you for this time together, this fellowship, all those that are present and all those who will be watching later. We ask you to come close, to help us to feel your presence that is always with us. Dear God, we are going through some very difficult times in our world, and we know that having faith in you to shine the love and the light more brightly is a challenge. And we offer up our feelings of helplessness in the face of a disastrous war on Ukraine and disastrous repression of the Russian people by a murderous dictator. Lord, we ask you to have people in the world with the resources to help, to be motivated to help in whatever ways that we can. Please be with the mothers and the children and the grieving and the hungry and the frightened and the thirsty and the millions of homeless people. Please supply the countries that are taking in refugees with all that they need, improving their infrastructure and helping. Please keep the nuclear power plants safe. Show us the miracles in the midst of this disaster. Show us, dear Lord, how to uplift ourselves so that we can uplift others, as many are triggered by these traumas, reliving their own traumas. And we know your love is greater and your healing is stronger. And that even though there's so much that we don't understand, there is a divine plan for good. Sometimes we cannot see. And through the darkness, show us our humanity, show us our compassion. Heal our divisiveness, in the United States and in the world. Help all those in all war-torn countries. Help all those who are suffering from the ravages of natural disasters. Dear Lord, please wake up our humanity to the need, the urgent need to move on climate change, restoring the earth to a livable form. Inspire us to teach the children, to guide the children, and to be a better people. We ask for protection for our leaders, for Zelensky, for Joe Biden, and the other world leaders coming together this week. We ask for their great protection and making progress in ending this senseless war. Please heal our judgment and our sense of not being connected to others, and please heal our inability to forgive when that occurs. Let's take a moment and offer up your personal prayers during this time. We ask that all those who are suffering the loss of a loved one or loved ones who are transitioning right now, that they be comforted by angels and guides, and that they know that the end of life is not the end. As we release these prayers up to the divine law, we give thanks that they are done. And so it is. Amen. Okay. Thank you. It's always good to stop and pray. And it's always good too, when we're feeling the stress and the anxiety, particularly now, I think it's really important to remember that we don't have to stay in the anxiety. We don't have to stay in the tension. There's a kind of a tendency when we get anxious, when we're going too fast, there's kind of a tendency to breathe really shallow. And then we're kind of working against ourselves, because if we're breathing in a shallow way, in our physiology, our brain actually thinks that we're suffocating because we're not getting enough oxygen. So I like to just, remind people, we don't have to stay in that triggered fight or flight state, that if we just notice where we're at and we have the anxiety, to just take a time out, literally, like just take a time out. And I know it sounds too simple to really be effective, but it's the most effective thing we can do, is to just tell ourselves we're too stressed, and just to say, I'm going to stop. If I'm driving, I'm going to pull over to the side of the road and take some really long, slow, deep breaths. So let's take 3 long, slow, deep breaths right now as a little bit of a practice before I do the first reading. So big exhale, big inhale. Just hold the breath for a few seconds before you exhale all the air out, all the air. So you're like a completely deflated balloon, your lungs. Big inhale. Hold the breath for a few seconds before you exhale completely. Big inhale. Hold the breath for a few seconds and exhale all the air out completely. And even with just those few deep breaths, you might notice a shift. Most people do. And you know, in the Aramaic language that Jesus Christ spoke, Allah Ruha was one of the things that Jesus is reported to have said, which means God is in the breath. So when we get to a place where we can really connect with the breath, the stress can really literally just leave. And at least for a little while. God is in the breath. So the first reading, oh, by the way, today's sermon is our theme for March is abundance once again, and the sermon today is abundance of divine guidance. Our first reading is from the Essential Ernest Holmes, collected writings by the author of The Science of Mind. Know that there is something more than law. That means like divine law, like universal law. There's something more than law. An intelligence to which we may come for inspiration, for guidance, for direction. A power responding to us, a presence pressing against us, an animation flowing through us, a light within us. Spiritual experience is a fact. Spirituality may be defined as an atmosphere of good, the realization of God. It cannot and does not borrow its light from another, no matter how great or noble that other may be. It springs from within, coming from that never-failing fountain of life, which quenches every thirst, whose source is in eternity, the wellspring of self-existence. It is a revelation of the self to the self, putting one back on the track of his own self-dependence on spirit, his own at-one-ment with reality. So that's from Ernest Holmes, speaking about the guidance that comes from within, our connection with the divine that comes from within. And our first musical selection, once again, I did play it earlier before my Wi-Fi conked out. So far, so good. This is an old Christian hymn, and it's called Christ Be Our Light. And the words are very appropriate for these times that we're in. Okay. For the world. Christ be our light. Let us be in the light. Let us shine our lights. The world needs your light. Our second reading is from Eric Butterworth, who also lived and wrote at the time of Ernest Holmes. And he wrote a book called You Make the Difference. And it goes like this. Cultivate the habit of listening. It must begin with a polite attentiveness to people who are speaking. How often conversation is simply a relay of talking, with little or no actual listening. One man suggests this prayer, God give me the patience to listen until the other fellow tells half of what he believes before I start in to tell him all I know. When we form the habit of listening creatively, we become receptive to the higher vibrations of a cosmic voice from which all intelligence springs. It is absolutely amazing the things we can do when we walk and work under the guidance of the still small voice within us. Our guidance may not come with a dramatic experience like Moses in the burning bush, but come it will if we listen. As the poet says, there is guidance for everyone, and by lowly listening, we shall hear the right word. Life can be dynamic and effective and decisive and confident when we develop the art of listening. That's a really good one for modern times, isn't it? Cultivate the habit of listening. It must begin with a polite attentiveness to people who are speaking. We don't seem to see a lot of that these days. For our next hymn, this is a very old hymn called Be Still My Soul. These hymns that I have chosen, I felt were good for the times that we're in right now. Be still my soul, the Lord is on thy side. Be patiently the cross of grief or pain. Leave to thy God to order and provide him in every change. Faithful will remain. Be still my soul, thy best, thy heavenly friend. Through thorny ways leads to a joyful Be still my soul, begin the song of praise. On earth believe to thy Lord on high. Acknowledge him in all thy words and ways. So shall he view thee with a well-pleased eye. Be still my soul, the Son of life divine. Through passing clouds, but more brightly shine. Through passing clouds shall but more brightly shine. Be still my soul. So for our sermon, once again, if the Wi-Fi quits, please let me know. I hope that it doesn't. Abundance of divine guidance. I want to start this by reading to you from Luke 21. verse 28. And there shall be signs in the sun and in the moon and in the stars and upon the earth, distress of nations, with perplexity, the sea and the waves roaring, men's hearts failing them for fear, and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth. For the powers of heaven shall be shaken. And then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. And when these things begin to come to pass, then look up and lift up your heads, for your redemption draweth nigh. And he spoke to them a parable. Behold the fig tree and all the trees. When they now shoot forth, ye see and know of your own selves that summer is now nigh at hand. So likewise ye, when ye see these things come to pass, know ye that the kingdom of heaven is nigh at hand. So that's from Luke 21. And I wanted to read you this because I feel that we are in these times that the Bible and other prophecies, spoke of. And I think that there's not many people that could disagree with me. We really, as a humanity, we stand at the precipice of a kind of a place that we've never been, which is the threat of nuclear war. We'll just say it. We'll say the unsayable. During these times, if we can get quiet, we can find the stillness that can get us through, and we also can know that this is the most important time for us to learn how to listen to the divine guidance, and to know that there have been so many times in our own personal lives and throughout history when something that was horrible that was happening ended up in some way, a side effect that happened was that a great healing also occurred. We can't really pretend to know the plan of the divine, but one thing that we do know, and we know for sure, is that love is the most powerful force in all the world. That if you have somebody that you're praying for and you're pouring all your love into that prayer and all your healing intentions into that prayer, the more fearless you are with that, the better. You know that love can heal. We know that there have been studies done that infants, if for some reason are not held, that they perish, because we all need that. We all know that love is who we are. And during these really tumultuous times, when it's so hard to be quiet, we have to somehow go for just the glimmer. Like we sing all is well. Sometimes all is well is hard to think about when you're really going through it. And we're really going through it on the planet right now. And I know you're all with me on that. So there's always a glimmer of hope. And our work is to be able to be still and know that I am God, as the Psalm says. Our work is to do it despite anything. Our work really, in order to raise our vibrational frequency, our work is to find that peaceful place. It is said in this psalm, I mean in the gospel according to Luke, men's hearts failing them for fear and for looking after those things which are coming on the earth, the powers of heaven shall be shaken, and then shall they see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. I don't believe that that's actual, or you might believe that it is actual. So it's when, like I've quoted that song by Leonard Cohen, Suzanne, that line that says, when referring to Jesus, when he knew for certain only drowning men could see him, he said, all men shall be sailors then until the sea shall free them, which is probably referring to death. When we're drowning in our fear, when we're drowning in our sorrow, when we're drowning in our trauma, when we're drowning in our anxiety, in our just complete hopelessness, because we're watching what's going on around us and we feel like we can't do anything about it. We feel like just meager little me cannot do anything. But you know what? One person can tip the tower, whatever it might be, can tip things in the direction that they need to go. You know that we've been doing meditation time here. If we can find the little glimmer of light, the little glimmer of hope, that's if we can find that silence, that's where the guidance is going to come in. Now, before I got cut off earlier in the day when I was doing the service, I started to tell you a story that Carolyn Mace had told. Carolyn Mace wrote Anatomy of the Spirit. She's an amazing spiritual teacher. M like Mary, YSS, if you want to look up Carolyn Mace. So I just remember Carolyn in one of the talks that she was giving, she recounted a story she had heard about prisoners in the concentration camp in Nazi Germany, and how, if you ever read Man's Search for Meaning, it's astounding what those people went through, and it's unimaginable. So one of the sort of the forms of torture was to line up a bunch of people that were going to be executed and to have others watch the executions happen right in front of them. And this event was occurring, and one of the witnesses, after seeing the executions, ran over to a corner and just kind of fell in the dirt and started praying and praying and praying. And his friend noticed that he was praying prayers of gratitude, to which his friend, stunned and shocked, said, "How could you? After you just witnessed what you had witnessed, how could you possibly be praying prayers of gratitude to God? What, have you gone crazy?" To which the man praying responded, Oh, I'm praying prayers of gratitude that I don't have it in me to do what they just did. What those Nazi soldiers just did in executing these human beings. He found something to be grateful for. And if anybody has ever read Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl mentions, all they were given was hot water, basically, and they called it soup. And one day he got a fish head in his soup, and he was grateful for the fish head. So I'm telling you this to give perspective on things that we have seen over the past weeks, to the point where I shut down my my Psychic News Network videos temporarily, because it's just too much. It's too much. The things that we have seen have been so difficult. And the challenge is, beyond what I've ever experienced in my lifetime, and I just seeing, and I'm sure it's the same for most of you. I hope for all of you that this is the worst it's ever been in terms of the collective trauma. When we see all this happening, it is so tempting to go to, there's no hope. But that's not what the divine guidance is telling us. The divine guidance is telling us we must find God in the darkness. This is a cry for us to come to the light. This is a cry for us to listen, to not be intimidated by the stillness, because it is within the stillness that the light comes in. If you're having a bad day in Earth School, like Carolyn Mace likes to say that, if you're having a bad day in Earth School, don't just settle for that. We can't just settle for that. If we've been nasty, let's not just settle for leaving it there. Let's ask for forgiveness from the person we were nasty to, or, just apologize. Let's not stay in the darkness. And right now, what we're being so challenged to not do is to not cave in to hopelessness and despair, because was it Payne that said, these are the times that try men's souls. These are the times that are trying our souls. These are the times that are trying our souls, where we cannot look away anymore, because but for the grace of God, what those people have been going through could have been us. And we don't like to think about it, but it can be us. And we cannot cave into the darkness. The people of Ukraine have shown us that, and they're showing us that every day. We must be praying really hard for them. When we become still, God can speak. God is always speaking. And I know that we all get hung up on, but we don't know what it sounds like or what it feels like. And truly, the voice of God and the stillness is, sometimes it's just the stillness. Sometimes it's just, this is it. This is it. So if you're having a bad day, you know, sometimes it's important for us to go, I'm going to go sit with God for a few minutes. I'm going to go sit and I'm going to do 5 deep breaths, and I'm just going to be with God. And like Eric Butterworth says here, when he says about listening, it's true of us with one another, and it's true of us with God. Cultivate the habit of listening. Cultivate the habit of listening. Perhaps, you know, now that it's spring where we are, perhaps cultivating the habit of listening might mean that you're out for a walk and you're listening to the birds, or you're listening to the wind rustling through the trees. When we cultivate the habit of listening, when we're with somebody and we can leave a space in between what we say and what they respond, if we can leave that space, you know, sometimes if you're with someone and there's a what do you call it, a pregnant pause, people get really uncomfortable with that. And we live in a time where we're not conditioned to create a space. And the space is where the divine can come in and speak. And then when we get used to, when we form, like Butterworth says, when we form the habit of listening creatively, we become receptive to the higher vibrations of a cosmic voice from which all intelligence springs. The greatest geniuses have had have taken the most naps. I don't remember who it was, but there was an inventor, I don't know if it was Edison, who would when he was inventing, he would just go and he would take a nap, and he'd hold like a ball, like a baseball in his hand, so when he fell asleep and he woke up because the ball thumped on the floor, he would wake up with a great idea, because he was going into that, you know, that quiet space. During these times, we must go to that quiet space in order to calm down, because God is in the calm. I cannot count how many times in my work people have said that they feel like they're not hearing the guidance. You cannot not hear guidance. Guidance seldom comes in an audible voice. It's been known to. Guidance comes in a feeling state. We've talked before about the feeling of love. When we know that we feel love, when what we want to do is give to the object of our affections, and that kind of, maybe even romantic love, or parent to child love, you know, child to parent love. You know, we feel that love, and we all know what that feels like. I hope we all know what that feels like. It's an inkling, it's an urge. And one thing that gets people very hung up, I notice, is feeling like the voice is supposed to be telling them something, you know, monumental and humongous, and actually sometimes it's just like, just be happy. Just be happy. I know so many people have such a hard time with that. No, just be happy. Be joyful. Lift up the energy. Lift up the energy. There are others who don't have access to it. Lift up the energy as best as we can. And I wanted to share with you a prayer that Marianne Williamson has a book. She has many books. And one of them is about living a powerful life. And the name of the book is The Gift of Change, Spiritual Guidance for Living Your Best Life by Marianne Williamson. So I wanted to just read you a little prayer that she said, that she wrote in her book, that's helpful in terms of, and you might want to write this down, take a moment to get something to write on. The most powerful way to make a decision is to get in the stillness, to get in the quiet, to get in a sense of trust. And dear God, please make this decision for me. I do not see the future, but you do. I do not know what's best for everyone, but you do, God. I cannot make sense of this, but you can. Dear God, please decide this issue for me. I like that kind of that approach to what's going on in the world right now. Dear God, we don't help us to decide how to be in the midst of this. help us decide how to see. You know, Albert Einstein said we cannot solve a problem. You may have heard this. We cannot solve a problem at the level of the problem. We have to ascend to a higher vibration. So the abundance of divine guidance, you know, the reason I entitled the sermon that is because I want to just convey the message that the guidance is always with us. I mean, just to use this example, Zelensky, the president of Ukraine, is demonstrating an abundance of divine guidance. The man was an actor and a comedian. And many people have said something transformed in him when he had to step up and play the role that he's playing, that many have compared to Winston Churchill. Some people might say that about the President of the United States, that there was a shift. There was a shift in his demeanor when he took on the office, the role that he took on of President of the United States. And we know that what we are, and we'll play the song too, is we're channels of this energy, and we must get still in order to be the channels. I know it's challenging. I know it's difficult. I know there are times when we feel like this. I'm really not doing this well. Those are the times we have to just not be hard on ourselves, because that makes it worse. That brings the vibration down. What we're going for is the higher frequency energy vibrations. We will be talking more about this in future sermons. How the high frequency energy vibration that we can channel can make the difference in this world. I like that, responding without anger when something, and it is a practice. It's a practice, and you know, if you have kids, you may have taught them through, you know, timeout, or, you know, it's not advisable anymore, but it used to be go sit in the corner. The whole idea about that is to just reflect, just take some time to reflect, take a breath before we react. Understand that if we can slow ourselves down a little bit and be less knee-jerk with our irritation, with our judgment, with our needing to judge others. Some of us are brought up with that. Some of us had people around us that were always judging others, and it just became a program. Which habits, dear Lord, can we break ourselves of so that we can be better channels of your light and your love? So, and there's no old man on a cloud with a white beard in heaven, you know, judging whether we're doing it right or wrong. If we knew how to do it better, we would do it better. We are doing the best that we can with what we know. So being open and receptive to the guidance that's always present, and there's an abundance of guidance everywhere. You know, if we want to do better, and we can ask God, you know, help us, you know, show us how to do better. If that is our prayer, like the prayer that Dr. Wayne Dyer likes to say, you know, when he was here on the earthly plane, he always would say, "How may I serve? How may I serve? How may I serve?" And when we're not going with the high vibration emotions, and we knee-jerk go into the anger and the rage and the upset and the judgment, stop. That wasn't my best self. So we can be in that receptive state. We can be in that loving state. That wasn't my best self. Let me take a few breaths and just be in the presence of God and feel the guidance. So let's do the prayer of St. Francis, since I mentioned it. Thank you for listening. And before we say goodbye for the evening, make me a channel of your peace. Where there is hatred, let me bring you love. Where there is injury, your pardon, Lord. And where there's doubt, true faith in you. much to be controlled as to control, to be understood as to understand, to be loved as to love with all my soul. Make me a channel of your peace. It is in pardon in that we are pardoned, in giving of ourselves that we receive, and in dying that we're born to eternal life. Be still and feel the guidance and hear the guidance, and know that when we're not sure what it is, just go to the peace and go to the love, and it will come. God always answers our prayers. Always, 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 always. Sometimes it's not in the timing that we want. Time of thinking about our giving. When I finally do collect money at the church, it's all 100% is going to charity. So in the meantime, I know the organization International Rescue Committee is giving aid to Ukraine, to the refugees. So please give to an organization that's helping Ukraine. I really appreciate you being here this evening. And once again, I apologize for the technology problems, but I am getting better Wi-Fi on Tuesday in a couple short days. Our prayer of thanksgiving. Dear God, thank you for making us more aware of what we have that we can give to others to make a difference in this troubled world. Please help us to look deeply into our hearts to see that we can always give more. Help us to see that you make our supply infinite, and grant us the inspiration and courage to be a more generous people. Thank you for the bounty which we receive. Amen. And our closing reading, as usual, is from The Science of Mind by Ernest Holmes. Before I read that, I want to let everybody know that I have an organization. It's called Grassroots of Democracy. And we are saving our democracy. Democracy was founded on the spiritual principles of our right to live according to the way that we connect to the divine and see fit. So let's, we know we're not perfect, but we have to save our democracy. So if you'd like to join our organization, we have weekly meetings. You can do as much as you can or as little as you can. grassrootsofdemocracy@gmail.com. Just type AYE in the subject line to join us. We meet every Thursday. The Science of Mind reading, our closing reading. Take a deep breath. Through the long night watches, God's hands clasp ours. At the break of dawn, God's hand clasps ours. In the daytime of work and endeavor, from eternity to eternity, God's hand clasps ours. When time shall have passed, when eternity shall be strewn about like falling petals, and space and world shall be swallowed up in everlasting blessedness, God's hand shall clasp ours, and so it is. Go in peace, be peace, and please pray for peace. And I'll see you next Sunday. If you'd like to communicate with me, just any of your thoughts, it's AnnetteDion7@gmail.com. Thank you for your participation in this service, and I will see you soon. Namaste. Pray for peace. See you soon. Thank you.